Kim, I'll pass it over to you to get started. Go for it.
Well, thank you. Hello, and welcome to Soft Ed's webinar, the sponsor here for me. And we're definitely delighted that all of you have been able to join us, and we're ready to tell you everything you ever wanted to know. No, we don't have enough time for that. So we're gonna hopefully talk about some future classes. And Dave has already mentioned Mark Balser's class is in November, and it's in the slides, and so you can go to SoftEd and register for that if you want to know more about business analysis and project management and how it's being used in this group. So let's start off by talking about what are our objectives. So one of the things we're going to try to do is attempt, because we just don't have enough time, a comprehensive understanding of AI. And there's a few words that come to mind, and one of them is data, and data. So we're going to give some insights into AI's history. We're also going to talk about where AI has been used and where it can benefit the business, right? And we're going to look into some possibilities of AI, where it's going. We're going to look a little bit into the workforce and how it's going to impact the workforce. And what are the limitations of AI? I wanted to share with you a little bit about my personal story, because it says a lot about where AI has come from. I started finding out a little bit about it in 1973. I found a program, interestingly enough, on a teletype. And it was called ELIZA, ELIZA. And I found out that was something that was done in the 70s, or I'm sorry, not 70. I found it in 73. It was actually done in about 59. And the way it worked was pretty simple. It says, "Who are you?" And you gave it your name, and then it says, "Tell me more." And so, "Tell me about yourself." And so you'd write a few sentences, and then it would say, "Well, tell me more about it. That's interesting about," and it would pick something out and say, "Tell me more about that." And so you would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And what I found out was it was building a database. And in that database, it was making relationships between two different words. It was using whole words in the database. And then it was also then making a piece-to-piece probability that these words would come in contact with each other in a later sentence. And it could actually come back and using some conjunctive words like and the and of, and it would even record those. It would build something that looked like it was intelligence. It looked like it was intelligence. And it was fascinating because for the first time I saw computers, which is, where my love was, as the possibility that there was going to be some intelligence. Well, now it's 50 years later, and we're using what's called the large language models for OpenAI's ChatGPT and some of the others that are there. And so what it provides now is the model itself is already built. It doesn't have to build it as we go. And it's the internet. So it's a huge model. Somebody said it was like 1.5 petabytes of information. And we also have bigger and faster machines. And so we can mathematically enhance the predictability and also the statistical probability that these things will come out. So it makes it even look more like it's intelligent, right? So, but the difference again is that we have faster machines now, and we have larger, much larger, the entire internet base of information, right? And all we're doing is we're just tagging those words and the probabilities. And we can use that again and again. The big key here is fast and big. So what's going to happen for future AI? Well, I have to go back to what David started out with, not in this seminar, but in the other one that we talked about, where it's about change, and change is going to happen, and it is happening. And it's kind of this change for between AI and what we've been used to in programming machines, it's getting to the point now, it's kind of scary, but we see computers programming computers. And this is where we're going. The biggest issue that I find is that, like making this presentation up, I'll admit I used AI to make the presentation, which I thought was great. But then I started looking into all the little pieces that were there and found out, wow, there were a lot of mistakes. And a lot of companies had moved on, and a lot of companies had changed their website, and it's changed. So what is it that we see that's going to happen here in the future? Well, it's going to be finding mistakes. And then the other part that really disturbs me, I don't know about you, but disturbs me, is that people say, oh, I found this in the internet. And everybody goes, okay, how do you know that what you found in the internet is true? So truth detection, right, is becoming that new profession. And also, as a kind of a backdrop here, I just wanted to share with you a book. This is the book. I'm showing it up on my screen here. Hopefully you can see it. Bostrom wrote a book from Oxford Press called Superintelligence. And this book has been recommended by Bill Gates. And I thought, well, oh, okay, well, I'm going to have to read that. But the more that I read, the more notes I made in the side pieces. And I went, you know what? I need to write a book. So I am. But this is a good book if you want to be challenged with where AI is and where it's going. Here's another interesting book. I just happen to have these on my bookshelf and read. This one is the scary one. It's called The Singularity, right? And the end of the world is near because of AI. This was written in 2005. The superintelligence book, Nick Bostrom, by the way, is a professor at Oxford, and he actually has a class in AI. And so this is basically notes from his class. This was written in 2014. So what is it? Well, it's the technologies. It's all of the things that make it look like it's intelligent. We say artificial intelligence because it's not really intelligent, is it? And what it is not. So I'm dismayed when I hear, oh, it's got AI, oh, it's got AI, oh, it's got AI, only to find out that it's a marketing term. AI is real, but we have to kind of divorce ourselves from all of the things that it is not. And it's not something that just has a circuit board or microprocessor in it. So be careful. Some of the key tasks that AI actually does: problem solving. It does some problem solving. Sometimes you need a little bit of reasoning, as it says here. Human interaction has to come into play there. You can't really solve problems, or the AI can't solve problems. It needs a little bit of help currently. So, we're looking at futures later. Perception, natural language understanding. I find it amazing we don't give credit for AI being able to use it for translators from different languages. And I play an online game, which I don't know, some of you also do, but that's worldwide. And the chats that are in there are any language. So I'm translating and talking to people in Arabic, and I'm looking at Arabic language. I see that, and I hit the translate button, and it translates it. And it's fascinating that it can do that. So this is what AI is today. So let's look a little bit at the timeline, the history of it. Some could say, well, it doesn't matter what the history was, but in our case, the ancient civilizations actually had something that they saw, the gods or whatever. But as we started getting the mechanical age, we had automata, We had these little robots that did things, and the cuckoo clock, right? Um, and Disney's automation that they do inside of there pretty much is mechanical, but and currently doesn't have a lot of artificial intelligence with it. That'll change too. Entertainment will change dramatically. If you want to take a really deep dive into some of the early foundations of AI, you want to look at the Henry Millardet, Millardet, called a draftsman writer, and it was a robot. They actually made a movie about this, and I've watched it several times. Fascinating, where the mechanical device, automata, right, goes and it can write on a piece of paper with ink and a piece of paper, and it can change by a program that's done in the back. So again, made it look like it was intelligent. Right? The Dartmouth Workshop. So the Dartmouth Workshop was in 1956. And several fellows, and I won't go into the names and whatnot, organized it. And their charter was an attempt to find out how to make machines to use language, form abstractions and concepts, and solve problems now reserved for humans and improve themselves. This was the first time that the word supposedly was coined, artificial intelligence. So the Dartmouth Workshop is the beginnings of that. There was a lot of excitement about that happening, and they spent some time working on that particular aspect of it. Unfortunately, our computers were just not up to the task. I mean, the PC didn't come around until about 82. And so these very, very large machines, they were very excited about it. A lot of money was poured into artificial intelligence in those early years to try and make it. And actually, computers themselves, the challenge was always to make it better, better, better. And then it wasn't until probably the 90s to present when we actually were able to have machines that were powerful enough, and that we had the rise of the internet and the capability to have large pieces of information that we could look at and we could grab together. But because of the AI winners and some of the people being disenfranchised with where AI was going, the money really wasn't there. When we said AI, and people went, yeah, I'm not putting any money in that. All of a sudden, they started using some statistical analysis, and we'll look at some of the places where you can go do a deeper dive into that later. But they called it deep. They changed the name. They called it deep learning, and everybody went, "Oh, this is something new, deep learning. We're going to have to get out the money and let's put some more money in it." And it's been very successful. Been very successful to the point where we've had some current AI systems, and IBM's Watson was promoted very heavily early on. Everybody went, well, yeah, but we can't buy them big IBM machines. And today now, OpenAI's ChatGPT is the thing that everybody keeps looking at and using, and it's pretty darn good. I'll have to admit, it's pretty darn good. And if you get a chance to use ChatGPT and 4.0, which is a paid thing, they've got some really, really great assistants. And one of them is making a slideshow. And so you can actually make slides using ChatGPT 4.0. Google's AlphaGo, 2016 was the time when which AI points to and says, this is truly when machines are better because they beat the world's Go player, right? Really, it needs to be looked at in AI, and we're going to delve in now to the different roles that it plays, because it really has enhanced our market share. So if you want to use it for your contact maintenance, customer relationship manager, your CRM, Salesforce.com is one of those companies that is the top of the game in doing that. IBM still is doing predictive analytics, and they are advertising this quite heavily. And chatbots, again, OpenAI is the company that's doing that. On the profit side, if you want to look at automation in a manufacturing environment, UiPath is one of those companies that takes statistics and allows you to do that. We have a degree, right, which is industrial engineering. And that's basically what they do. They go through your manufacturing path and try to optimize and get more out of each machine. Well, this is a group and a software that allows you to do that. So if any of you are into that kind of environment. Some dynamic pricing. Pricing is an issue with when you're trying to figure out how you're going to make a profit. If you mess it up by a penny or two, I don't know how many of you know how gasoline is priced, but it's priced every day. They change the prices on a daily basis, and if they miss it by a penny, they lose out dramatically. And supply chain. This is an interesting piece of information here. Here was one where the AI, the ChatGPT said, supply chain optimization is done by LlamaSoft. Well, it turns out that LlamaSoft was purchased by Coupa, and it was purchased by Coupa in 2020. They paid $3.5 billion for LlamaSoft. Why? Why? Because they had a large amount of information, and supply chain optimization is just that important. So we don't often think about what it takes to move stuff from point A to point B, but this was one of those cases. Security is a problem, and as it still continues to be a problem. The companies that work in virus, right, and malware, those companies make their money off of getting you to buy and to install that program. Well, Darktrace is a company that works in immediate threat protection. And so companies that are trying to hold on to their information would use Darktrace. Take a look at that if you don't have it. Obviously, companies that deal with commerce like PayPal and Google are constantly looking at security breaches and how to manage those. Streamlining the IT process, and hopefully we're going to talk some more about that. Mark will talk about some of these companies, but Ansible is an open source project. It's managed by Red Hat, so how much that involves stuff that's not Linux based, I don't know. Predictive maintenance, interesting. Cisco purchased them in the third quarter of 2024, and allows you to look at your entire network and to look for threats in your network, as well as streamline your network. One of the things that has been the downfall, I think, of environments, networks, and I see it here locally, is that we just don't have anybody that spends enough time looking at how the networks are worked together. And so you need a tool, and Splunk is one of those companies that provides it. And then NLP tools, which is natural language processing. And take a look at that particular section, natural language from Google. The pivotal roles then for data insights, because data is part of this whole deal. I mean, it is the whole deal. Exploratory analysis. We want to uncover patterns and anomalies. And so if you're working in the data market, This is one of the tools and one of the areas that you can create software for. Statistical analysis is one of the things that AI has done and done very well. My daughter works in an industry that had 1% um, good parts. I can't remember what you call that, but 1% was all their goodness was. But so she got it to 4%. And they gave her all kinds of big bucks. But the way she did it was through statistical analysis. I helped her, of course. Predictive analysis, forecasting future trends. This is kind of interesting because if you ask GPT about a future event, sometimes it will tell you, I can't do that. It won't predict the future for you. So what does it do though? And I love this idea that it's going to base it on historical data. What do they tell you in the stock market, right? That the future of this particular company is not predicted on historical information. But we don't have really, every day we do things based upon historical data, don't we? And so there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to predict the future. I think they don't want to be sued. Anyways, decision support. So we need data, but we need somebody to gather the data. So in my jobs that I've had, oftentimes they've said, well, Kim's one of those guys that can take a lot of data and bring it down to something where people can understand. And hopefully this is a good example of that. We're in a market here in North Carolina where we have a lot of healthcare providers, Duke and UNC, both being hospitals as well as educational institutes. We also have a lot of drug and drug research companies. With Quintiles and GlaxoSmithKline are here. And so there's a lot of the software and a lot of the software development that's here is based around that kind of those people. So healthcare also has changed because people like me have gotten older. I'm baby boomer, so all the baby boomers getting old and they're getting feeble, and we've got some other things. The COVID-19 scare was something where we needed a lot of healthcare help. So let's look at some of the applications that are there. One of the applications that we need a lot of help with is medical imaging. Unfortunately, there's a shortage of X-ray and MRI, not technicians, but readers, people to do that interpretation. Because not only do you have to have your degree in being a physician, but you also have to have some good technical capabilities. Well, you can imagine if there's a little white dot on a picture and it means something about your health, you want to know about it. And so rather than have an individual try to pick those out, having an AI say, you might want to take a look at this dot that's right here. That's a good thing. So Nanox imaging, again, one of those things where it acquired Zebra Medical Vision, which was the standard in the industry for this. One of the great things about it, when we talk about data, is that they have an interesting library. They have 30 million patient records, 500 million images in a 10-year history. It's one of those great things, and they're trying to say, okay, we've got that. Now we need to be able to share that with other people, and so they call it democratizing the delivery of healthcare. So AI needs these large amounts of data, and here's a company that has it. ADOC and Path AI are also a couple of companies that do that. Wearable devices. I got one of them watches, and my watch does everything. It does EKGs or EK. I wish it did it. Maybe it needs to do an EKG, but it does an ECG, right? It does electrocardiogram. And then it's big warning, right? If it says that it's bad, go to your doctor. Don't Don't trust the device. Fitbit. The blood pressure is the thing that a lot of these companies are trying to do. And I bought this watch because I thought it was going to give me blood pressure. And as it turns out, blood pressure monitors are something that are now coming out that you can wear separate. They even have the monitors now for measuring your blood levels. What do you call it? And instead of pricking your finger, I can't remember what that's called. Blood sugar. And so they measure your blood sugar now electronically. So that'll be the next thing. Your watch will measure your blood sugar for you, I'm sure. And then natural language processing and Google Healthcare and IBM Boss. I looked at that natural language processing and I thought, gee, what would they use AI for? And I said, well, they could use it to read some of the technical documentation I got for my lab work. I mean, if you ever read some of that stuff, it's like off the charts. They have their own vocabulary. So making it natural so that somebody can read those things is good. Drug discovery. So when we had 2020 came along and all of a sudden we had a real problem with drugs and the path that it takes to get a drug to get a drug. My watch just told me it's time to get moving. So anyways, so drug repurposing, things like I don't know if you remember, but there was a big deal about the COVID-19 and what drugs were we going to use. And somebody said, hey, there's a malaria drug out there that you could use. So drug repurposing, benevolent AI, it's called. Predictive analysis. So sometimes you can look into a drug. This was a fascinating company. It says, we know what we want to do. Let's figure out what the drug interactions are going to be with other drugs that are already in the market. So it's a great help for them to at least get started with that. And then clinical trials, and because clinical trials are a big deal here, and as we talked about in 2020, where it's like, how can we accelerate clinical trials? This company called Tempus is working in that area. All right, predictive analysis, and as I said, oftentimes the AI companies are not want to do prediction, but here's a company that identifies your risks. I was told that I had diabetes type 2, and I said, and my doctor says, oh, you're going to only live a year longer. That was 20 years ago. But here's a company two companies that do patient risk identification. Doctors want to know this, so they're able to scare their patients, I guess. Predictive maintenance of hospital equipment, kind of off the charts and different from this. Siemens has got a ton of stuff on their website. If you go to this website, healthineers.com, and take a look at some of this stuff. It's not just predicting maintenance of hospital equipment. They have got a lot of AI stuff out there. Personalized treatment plans. Again, once you have decided where you're going, this company really we see this for cancer patients, and so a lot of cancer progression and where we're going. What do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? Flatiron has been key in doing that for cancer care. So that's the hospital stuff. That's the hospital stuff. Now, what are we going to do about other stuff? Logical transformations. Logistics is a big key, is a big problem. I had a friend that says, you're not concerned about feeding people. I said, well, there's a lot of people that are that don't have any food. I said, but the problem is not that there isn't food to give them. The problem is they don't have the wherewithal to get to the food. And if you knew where they were and you could transport it to them, then that would be key. Uh, our church does a local food pantry, and while that's wonderful, people still have to get to the food pantry um, to get the food that's there. So logistics means a lot, and some of the systems that are out there now are just starting to look at how we can provide those things and provide logistics. Road automation, I see Tesla car every day when I'm on the road. So they're ubiquitous with artificial intelligence. When people say a car that has AI, they think of that. Sometimes they don't think about Waymo. Waymo has been in the business now probably longer than Tesla. And when Waymo first started out, they wanted to have a driverless Uber, and they said, well, it might be easier to do that inner city, take away from the cab companies. And so they started out in San Francisco, and they in fact created tried to do a driverless system there. And they said, oh, it's going to be easy because we've got all these buildings and we can find it. Not so. Um, yeah, and we're going to give all these slides out at the end. So the other part was they looked at that and they started doing some of their experiments, and they found out, yeah, it wasn't that easy. So one of the things that they did was they said, oh, we're going to have to enhance it. So they have an enhanced city. So San Francisco now has got markers for Waymo. So Waymo has been successful there. They did it in Phoenix then. And soon they say it's going to be in Los Angeles and Austin. We'll see. John Deere and agriculture. Oh my goodness. They're not the only agriculture company. Chase is another company that does a lot of the big tractors. But John Deere is kind of, that's their thing. And they thought, well, how can we help the farmer? And this is a farming environment here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm in Holly Springs, North Carolina. And just down the road is tobacco and peanuts. And last year was corn. But how do you harvest that for these large acre places? And you only have a certain amount of time that you can harvest. It would be great if we could do that at night. And of course, some of them do that at night. And so and there's only so many people that do it. So let's create a machine that's called an autonomous tractor. So they actually have an autonomous tractor. And they have large machines that are autonomous at this point, and they work by GPS, and they work by, and they actually have, some of them have drones that help them. Fascinating. And I've been to several seminars and talking about AI and use with agriculture. Drones are a big deal. I was going to bring my drone. I have a drone that I bought, a little tiny drone, and it was back in the day trying to make it work, and you had to trim this and trim that and do this and that to make it work and make it fly well. And it would always hit things, right? So today's drones, DJI is key in that, entertainment drones, but they also have some higher end drones that are used for the real estate market. And take a look at DJI. At the upper end, though, when you're starting to look at the police and emergency fire protection, they've got some robots now that actually carry some amount of the hoses and whatnot, so that they can put fires out with. Fascinating stuff. And also sea robots, so AI is being used there. Unless you're involved in the software that's used inside of those, it's hard for you to recognize how much AI means to them. Again, if you were doing it by hand, trying to make it work, you see the wind has something to do with it, and where you are has something to do with it, and collision control. And if you had a camera on it, it could see it, but it has to see in forward. I mean, it's amazing how much AI means to those devices. The big problem right now is battery. The battery life is not enough for them to do much with. Ground robots, Boston Dynamics is the company that you want to talk about. If you see those dogs, that mechanical dog robots, that's Boston Dynamics. Surgical, if you have ever had surgery with Da Vinci, the Da Vinci robots have multiple little tasks on them. Go to that website, intuitive.com, and you'll see the Da Vinci robots. Fascinating what they do with surgery. And then, of course, Amazon talks about using drones, right, to deliver products. It's limited, and really limited because of the amount of battery life. Yeah. All right. So moving on, customer service. So one of the things that it can help us with is also I call it the wake up words, right? The wake up words for I won't say that because you might have a phone that'll wake up if I use those words, but you see those words on the screen. Whoop, whoop, whoop. What did I do? Hold on. There. When I roll my mouse, it does that. So and I need AI for the presentation. So assistant.google.com, if you've ever looked at that, that's their AI background. So take a look at that. Yeah, obviously, Watson has been there for IBM, and so if you go to their website, you'll see that. And chat, OpenAI. Interestingly enough, let's see, OpenAI, Microsoft told Recode, so this is kind of backdoor stuff. It was not disclosing the deal specifics, but Semaphore reported 2 weeks ago that the two companies were talking about $10 billion. So Microsoft getting 75% of OpenAI's profits until it recoups its investment. I'm reading from their website. After which it would have a 49% stake in the company. So ChatGPT is that powerful and that important that Microsoft is buying a pretty good share in it. Another one down here, e-commerce. So talked about Amazon obviously has got a retail area, and that name that I won't mention because I got it all over my house, and it'll say what? And then Bold 360, another one of those purchases. It was purchased by Genesis in 2021. And it does conversational AI, dynamic knowledge base, and it has intuitive agent experience. So you might want to take a look at that if you're in the e-commerce area. Scientific discovery. Very first one on there, MATLAB. If it wasn't for MATLAB and Simulink, the math that's used for artificial intelligence, at least when it comes to natural language, ChatGPT, uses a lot of that math for statistical and probabilities. Take a look at that website if you're interested in the insides of it. If you're interested in learning about deep learning, that's where to go. And ComSolve deals with multi-physics. I had to look this up. Multi-physics software is what they provide. What does that mean? I still don't know. I'm going to look into that some more. But it says the description says the simultaneous simulation of different aspects of a physical system or systems and the interactions among them. I guess that would be like football or something. So material discovery and design. We're talking about the large base of material information. Again, in order for AI to work, it has to have a large base of information and tagged information. So these are a couple of different places where you can go against Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. You can imagine the materialsproject.org. And these .org companies, typically it's open. in order for us to use it, right, it has to be open. So if you're doing materials, and if you have materials programs, or you're in the materials space, these are two areas where you really want to go to these websites and look at these. They're open source too. All right, so we're ready to talk about ethics. Dave and I are going to do an AI ethics, responsibilities, and governance on Tuesday on 11/14, also at noon. So that'll be a 1 hour attempt to talk about governance. But we're going to make a quick stab at it here in one slide. So first of all is bias detection, and fairness. Interestingly enough, there are several bias detectors. So if you were programming this, if you were programming bias in your AI, you would not want to know about the Thiel index, the Euclidean distance, the Manhattan distance, and the Mahalanobis distance, and others. If you go to ai-fairness-360-org, right, that is from Linux. It used to be IBM. IBM had, this was another one where the AI failed me. When I went to their website, it was not there. They said, oh yeah, that's been on the Linux Foundation. It's been with the Linux Foundation since, let me see my notes. I don't know. Oh, let's see this on the other page. Nope, nope. Don't know. Well, oh, July 2020. It's the first line on my notes. July 2020. So they bought or they gave, I guess, all of their source to the Linux Foundation. So you go to that website there. That's on there. Fairness indicators. Really fascinating website to go to and talk about TensorFlow, and where they give you these indicators that I just mentioned, the Thiel, the Euclidean, Manhattan, blah, 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 and they show you how to put those into your AI programming. Privacy protection. Many companies have tried to do that. The 2-layer where they dial your phone and you got to put a number in. Privacy. Apple actually on their website right there, we're talking about privacy features. They mention all the areas that they've had to address. And so you can imagine if you've got a browser, right? We see this now with a little thing that comes up and says, "Do you want us to give you cookies?" And no cookies, half a cookie, chocolate chip only. Maps. We don't really think about that as privacy, but if you are going to different places, your system already knows where you are. I used it actually in a court case to say I wasn't there. My map on my phone says I wasn't there. Photos, trying to address the idea of children shouldn't be shown in photos without their consent, and some issues associated with that. FaceTime. So if you're doing FaceTime, see real world, they can see behind you and all those privacy issues. Messages, email, that other wake up word, Siri, right? SIRI, that word. The wallet, Apple Pay, Apple Card, right? All of those they've got some real issues with. But you can imagine that's just in your phone, An interesting thing by Microsoft, homomorphic encryption. I had no idea what that meant. They don't know yet either. If you can go to this, it's a research publication that they produced, and one of the interesting results, I guess, out of this group was they say that in order to protect it, it has to be standardized. So if you're going to put rules in, they have to be rules that are standardized across all of the data. So I don't know. It says most likely by multiple standardization bodies and government agencies. An important part of standardization is broad agreement on security levels for varying parameter sets. So wow, that's like blows my mind as to what's going to happen there or how that's going to happen. And then finally, transparency. So OpenAI, again, being one of the 500-pound gorillas in the market, they have a charter, and on their charter they say, yeah, we're concerned about it, and it's a competitive race, and if you want to do it, we'll be better than ever. We'll work out specifics and case by case agreements and blah blah blah. So it's kind of a broad brush. Yeah, we're going to do something about it, but they really don't say how. And then again, another organization that you can belong to, partnershiponai.org, is a nonprofit community, and it's got everybody: academic, civil, social, industry, media, everybody. So you can go join that. This brings up a really good question, which is, okay, so everything's going to change. Where do I fit in? I just lost my job. I was talking with a couple of guys on Tuesday night about they're losing their job in the software industry. They're losing their job in the network industry. They're losing their job in a lot of what we thought were solid jobs. And the question really is, now what do we do? It's kind of the people that were making buggies when the car came along. Now what do we do? It's almost that mind blowing. Well, SoftEd, thank you, David, has stepped up to the plate, and starting in November, the first November 28th through 30th, Mark is going to do AI for business analysis, and I assume we're going to do one for project management at some point. There's 3 of these sessions, December 12th through 14th and January 30th through February the 1st. And so you can go to the SoftAI or SoftEd website, take a look at that. And of course, hopefully we'll have some on AI coming up. And we've got the second one coming up in December, I guess. You can go to Coursera. They've got a huge range of courses that are there. I took one. It was almost over my head, and I have a degree in math as well as electrical engineering. It was over my head to some degree. I had to go back and almost didn't make the test. I did almost flunk the test. It's a good thing they give you a second chance at it. And then LinkedIn, of course, trying to re-educate people in the marketplace. I'm not quite sure how much that has got AI in it. I looked at that and I didn't see much in there. Skill assessment and tracking. So here's a couple of companies that do that. They look at your technical skills. They kind of point you in a way to get some more skills. And then career path, the Nano Degree and Future Learn, both of those companies are involved in career pathways. And so if you're a young person, might be good to look at that. I don't know how much of that AI is involved in there. So I just looked at them briefly and didn't go down very far in that. All right. So what's the future look like? Well, uncharted. We're on uncharted territories. We're not quite sure where AI is going to take us. It's obviously going to incorporate AI in just about everything that we've got. So even those that we don't even know what they are. And it has a potential to self-improve and maybe create Life 3.0, another book that was an interesting book for me to read. So that's saying beyond human intelligence and into AI. And we see a lot of, we watch them all the time, the science fiction, because I'm interested in this. What do the artists think about science fiction and AI, and what does it mean? So, but there are some limitations. Yes, there are some limitations to AI. The first one is it's data dependent, doesn't make its own data. However, there was a study that said that if the data that we have, right, will be more data than we can consume, and much of it will be created by AI. So if AI is creating AI, which creates AI, which creates AI, what does that mean? And so there was a recent study, and I don't have it down here, but just read it recently, that talked about how that kind of pollutes the actual information that's coming out. So, and also, as it says here, we got some privacy things that we need to address. Ethical, same thing, right? The potential bias has been there in the net. If we're using the net to generate presentations and other things, there's a potential that it's not going to be fair. So how do we ensure fairness in an AI integrated world? And I mentioned it before, Brave New World. And if you don't know those books, Brave New World and 1984, which I think is funny. That's the title of the book. Interpretability. A lot of the models are, you plug this in and you just call this. And while that's nice, it's a black box. You don't really know what you're getting out there. So there is a rising demand for explainable AI. And so I've got another one of these webinars coming up, believe it or not, on October the 31st. That's Halloween. So I'll be here at noontime on Halloween, and then I'm going to dress up in my Iron Man costume for Halloween. So there's some need for that. And unfortunately, there's not enough data. Most of the data that we have out there is generalized. There are several places where it's not. The materials one is super. The patients one is fine. If you go from system to system, like here in town, if you go to the UNC system and then you got to go to the Duke system, they have the capability to move some data, but sometimes they don't, and you have to transport it. So we need some robustness in that capability to move from one to the other. And again, it says some places we just don't have enough information. All right. Wow, we've got significant computational resources for training today. Yes, we do. But we need to have sustainable AI research. The research is there, just not enough. We've got, there's no emotion in this. I put down Data and Spock, right? Oftentimes they'd say, "Oh, we're all going to die," and Captain Kirk says, "Yeah, we're going to do it anyhow." Got to save that person, save the last person. So we got to have AI that's got emotional recognition. Don't know about that. It's still out for me here. And security concerns, absolutely. What if we got smart robbers? Huh? Yeah, we give AI to the hackers and to the robbers. Now we got some other issue we need to address. And then finally, the generalization of AI. So again, the more you make it like an individual and like a human, thinking like a human, making decisions like a human, the more we get to this thing that they call general intelligence. And when you get to general intelligence, if it gets bigger, better than the human, this is why these books, The Singularity and Life 3.0, and I've got another one, AI Superpowers in China, that we're concerned about. All right, I'm going to open it up. How'd we do, Dave? 12:57. That looks good. Some questions that were brought up. You're on. I'm looking at the chat. Robert says, ethical concerns is huge for me now that he's in the job market. Well, yep. Tawana says she bought an Insta360 Flow smartphone gimbal. Any other questions? All right, we're just at the done point here. Thank you very much for you joining with me, and I appreciate and hope to see you again